Hello and welcome back to Farming Simulator 22 and part 4 of the Precision Farming tutorial series. So this is going to be a really short one. I didn't intend to do a part 4, I'll be honest. I thought I covered everything, but I've seen a few questions in my Discord and a few people mentioning about a couple of things, and there's also one other thing that I just want to point out that probably should have pointed out at the end of the episode, but I kind of learned it after doing some more tests. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is I did mention about the herbicide and the environmental score, the balancing, and what seems to be better on that front. So for example, we were spraying herbicide with the John Deere sprayer that has got the spot spraying technology. Now that gives you the maximum points of 30, but and I was unsure, but I can confirm now that it does have a negative effect on yield. So I was getting about 112% instead of the 125. So it is, you know, you can look at like about 10%, between 10 and 15% decrease in yield, but it gives you that extra 10 points. So it'll move it from 12% to 15% on sell price bonus at the end. So you need to weigh up what you think's better. Now I did test it out, and I did it with just a manual weeder, and I ended up getting 91 points on the field that I was using. So my environmental score, I actually did it in field 44, not on this playthrough. I did it on another one I was testing out on. I actually got 91 in the end just because of the fact that I obviously didn't use the spot spraying technology. But I then got the full 125% yield. So I think that's the better way to go. Personally, I think that's the better way to go, because instead of getting the 15%, so if we just get rid of that and go over here, you can see that it's 9% currently. Instead of getting the max out of 15% sell increase, basically, on the price, I got 12%. So there's not much difference there. And I'm obviously not losing that 15% yield that I could be getting. So I'd say probably the best way to go is try and aim for at least 90 on the environmental score, because it's still going to be a good increase. Because you can't really get the full 125, 125% yield bonus on loam and get a full environmental score on that field. So it's one of them things. Do you want to go with herbicide, spot spraying, and take a bit of a hit on yield and get the increase in the environmental score, which gives you obviously the increase in the sell price? Or do you want to try and hit around 12% increase, which is still pretty good, and still get the full yield? So what I will confirm as well is if we go to a sell point, this is basically what happens now. So I've got a full trailer load of wheat here. We're going to go take it to the grain mill, and if I just quickly show you in the menu, go to the sell point, you can see that wheat right now is 565 pounds per 1,000 litres. So unfortunately my money's maxed out, so you won't see it going up, but at the end you'll get the notification. So I'll make sure to zoom into the top right corner of the video. Of the screen, so you can see it in the video. So as this sells, we'll get what the money we've earned from the grain, but then it'll tell you the bonus you get from the environmental score as well. So it does all apply at the sell point. So there you go. I've got 19,000 from my harvest income, 1,700 environmental score reward. Now the good thing about this is an even bigger bonus with precision farming. It applies to everything. It doesn't matter what you're selling, it applies to everything. So I've got over here some milk in the trailer, so we're going to sell this at the dairy. We've got 8,000 litres in the dairy, so let's sell this just to confirm it. So there you go, you can see that I got £9,349 from the milk I sold, and then an extra £835 from my environmental score. Now this environmental score as well, it's not even maxed out. It's not the best, to be honest. I've got it at 80, so I'm only picking up a 9% bonus, so I could go up to 15. But again, if I was at 12, for example, and had a 90 score, I'd be quite happy with that as well. And it just means that everything you sell from now on, there is a bonus to it, so it might give you a bigger incentive to look after that environmental score on precision farming. So the last thing I want to look at is scanning. Now there has been a bit of confusion with scanning. Now we're having a good conversation within my Discord, people saying they don't think it's working. I thought it was working, and I can confirm it is working, but it's a little bit more complicated than what I probably originally mentioned within my videos. So I just want to try and clarify it. It is working, but it's a lot trickier than probably you wanted it to be, and I wanted it to be as well. So what it basically states from the information giants provided before release is that sensors can only be used when the crop has enough green leaves for the sensor to detect the differences. For grains like wheat, for example, the best time to use a sensor is during the mineral fertilizing application period in spring. So what it's saying is it's not looking at the nitrogen in the soil, it's looking at the nitrogen within the crop itself. So is there any deficiencies? Does a little bit more need to be added to a certain patch, for example? And as it's going through the field, it needs them leaves, so it needs it to actually sprout and be a crop before. So you couldn't sense, if you tried to drive over a cultivated land, or let's say, sorry, a planted land, you just planted in canola. If you then go over it with the crop sensor, it's not going to sense anything because there's no crop there to sense if it's got a nitrogen deficiency or if, or if it's obviously perfectly fine. So what you do find is I showed you a picture with the two comparisons of how it should look when you've scanned and how it looks if you haven't scanned. Now, just so you know, if you don't scan, it doesn't matter, right? You're still going to get the full nitrogen levels when you go over it. So you've got your soil information, you go over it with your liquid fertilizer spreader or your solid fertilizer spreader, you're still going to maximize it out. You're still going to get the best possible increase in nitrogen. So that's what you need to get the maximum yield technically. Now, what you will find though is if you look at this now, I don't know if you can just make it out, it looks a little bit different. And that's because when the nitrogen levels were low, and this will only work, the scanner will only work when the nitrogen levels are obviously low, because it's looking for anything that's deficient. It's looking for anything that's too low compared to what it should be with that soil type. So you can see that it's just a little bit patchy. You can see where I've gone round. It's more, like I said in previous episodes, it's kind of cloudy. It fades in little bits in there. Now that's because what I did is I just drove across with my scanner. Didn't turn the fertilizer spreader on. I just drove across and it scanned it. But I did it in spring. I actually did it in the month of April as the canola was growing through, and it was happening in real time. I actually drove straight through the field in the middle and you could see the path that I took. So it is working, and you can see that even though this bit here is like a lot darker than this bit, it's a little more red, so that means there's a lot lower nitrogen there. There's a lot more, well, it's not a lot more, but there's a bit more nitrogen there. Originally that didn't look like this, it was just all orange. It was just all the same kind of values, could depend on the soil. So we had a line here that was different, a kind of line there, and that's how it should look, because it's the soil type, remember, that's making the difference for that crop. So each crop has its own nitrogen target level for each soil type that it's been planted into. Now you might look at this at the end and think, oh, it looks like nothing's happened. That's because as you're spreading or spraying fertilizer, it's applying the differences anyway from as it's scanning. So as you go around with the scanner on in April time, or in a time when you've got enough green leaves basically on the crop for it to scan and sense the nitrogen, what it's doing in real time is it's applying the differences anyway. So at the end, it's always going to look like this, because if I go back to soil type, you can see that this here is loam, and then you've got some sandy loam. So if we just keep an eye on that line, and then I go back to nitrogen, you can see that line's there again. And that is just because this is how it should look at the end. This is the final version. It should look like that at the end. It should look like it's been fully fertilized. So it might deceive you and make you think that it's not working, the scanning, but it is. It's just, so basically it just means you need to do it at the right time, scan at the right time. Now, it's a lot of work for that, let's be honest, it is. And I think the increase that you get in yield, you don't see it. It doesn't say 130%, for example, on loam. It just says the 125 potential. It'll tell you that you've maxed out to 125, but actually if you are scanning, you will pick up a little bit extra. And I think it's around 2%. So it's not massive. But if you've got one on the front of your tractor and you're spraying fertilizer in the last period, so you might have done some slurry manure, it's brought up to around halfway mark, and then your final period could be in April anyway, it could be in the springtime when you put in the final amount on to just get it up to that perfect mark. If you do it in real time, you won't notice any difference because it's on the front of your tractor and the sprayer's on the back, or the spreader's on the back. By the time you've finished and looked at the field, it'll just look like it's all done. So it is confusing. It might make you think the scanning's not working, but as you can see from this orange patch, it is working. Definitely looks different. It's not as uniform as the others. So if I go over here, you can see there's just a line. There's no patches that are faded in and out. Whereas if you go over there, especially if you zoom out, you can see it's quite clear. So I just wanted to point that out. This is going to be a shorter video. I just wanted to point out scanning is working. And I also wanted to point out that herbicide does have an effect, a negative effect on yield. It also tops out your environmental score, but if you do it with the John Deere sprayer, me personally, I don't think that's more of a benefit than getting the maximum yield, unless you're selling a load of other things, and that extra 3% that you're going to pick up on the sale prices would make a difference. It depends then. If you've got a lot of production things going on, milk, anything different from that one crop and that one field, then it probably makes more sense to get the top environmental score, because you're going to pick up a lot more from all the other things than you are from that one extra bit of yield. So you just need to weigh that up yourself. I probably will just do weeding, manual weeding, because I prefer that to using herbicide. And the spot sprayer, there is just one option. At the moment, we've just got the one sprayer, so I'm probably going to go with the weeder. But again, it's all down to preference. It's nice to have these options. So yeah, just a short video. Hopefully it's helped you out. Hopefully there's some good information in this that's helped you out. Appreciate it if you can give the video a thumbs up. And also, if you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one on Farming Simulator.